Welcome to Movie Baiters with the Farx brothers. I'm Kyle.
I'm Kirk.
And this week, or I should stop saying this week because we don't release them over the course of a week. I love telling the guest about the podcast as they're on the podcast. I didn't ask how to pronounce it, but I listened to enough interviews. Alison Guessou.
That is right.
First try. And Alison, I like to have the guest introduce themselves. The way I prompt them is, you're a multi-hyphenate, correct?
Correct. I direct, I write, and I produce.
Which one comes first?
I will say I got into it for producing, so for me that comes first.
I am a multi-hyphenate and producer comes first, but I absolutely hate being a producer first, but you have to be. So can you talk to me about what you like about, I know you're a project manager, I did listen to the interviews, so I'm going to ask a lot of questions about your corporate life, not getting specifically into your company and stuff, but I'm very curious about what drew you to project management, but then how that correlates with being a producer.
So I got into project management around 2010 when I decided that I wanted to, explore it as a career. And it basically came from just dissatisfaction at my current job and feeling like I was just clocking in and clocking out with no real direction. And so did a couple tests. It first started with, doing what we call a SWOT analysis, but strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threat. And what's the T? I forget
threat.
the team.
Yeah, it's threats.
It's threats. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It felt weird saying that, but asking my friends, what they think about me in these different quadrants, and they gave me feedback so I could get a sense of how people perceive me. Again, I'm kind of insightful. And then decided to do a couple of, at the time, our company had an HR, not in-house HR, but like a third-party HR company that offered like some sort of free classes online. And I would look through and see what kind of matched those personality traits that I like to do, because I like scheduling, I like budgeting, I like planning, things like that, and project management came up a lot. So I did a project management free course through there, and it's like, okay, you know what, this kind of seems to jive with what I want to do with life, and decided, well, let me explore this as an actual possibility. So I went to school, which is when I got my master's in project management, and it felt right, and right after that got a job starting with project coordinating. Within the first few years, again, the first year was great because it felt like, okay, I am doing something, I'm achieving, and plus you get to work with different types of companies, so you get to explore, the gamut of your skill set. But it is a stressful kind of job. But outside of that, it is rewarding because once you've made it through a project, you get to see something that came from nothing. Now, how that ties to film, or basically the producer side of things, you do a lot of that as well. You have a concept or an idea that maybe comes from a scene in your head, and you have to build the world around that scene. And in order to, for people to see it, it has to be written. And then you have to find people to help you bring it to life, whether it's crew or talent, and then go through the motions of editing and whatnot. And that all requires scheduling. That all requires budgeting. Then that all requires great management in order to keep things pushing forward. So that's, again, for me, how my skills were very transferable from project management to producer. From a filmmaker perspective, I've always been interested in film. I just didn't know the words to correlate with it when I was younger, because I am of Cameroonian descent. I do come from Cameroon, and those type of jobs aren't very popular. You're a doctor, you're a lawyer, a teacher, the things that bring the family money, an engineer, the things that bring family money. A filmmaker is not, it doesn't really define anything. Very much like here, they think art doesn't serve a purpose, but it does. Because for me, I would watch movies as a kid and be like, wow, I can't believe how much of an impact that had on me, and how much film can change cultures and influence cultures in the same way. And I was like, I'd love to be able to do that, especially for African people, and me being Cameroonian and being a Black girl. I was like, I don't see enough of people like me on TV or in films, and we don't really, we know our history, but we don't know our history that well. So I felt like a lot of that gets lost, and history is written by the victors, as you know, so that rhetoric could change from 20 years ago to today, depending on who's teaching it and who's in power. But film, I feel, is a constant. Art is a constant. For the sake of example, Shakespeare lived eons of years ago, but
eons, yeah.
but we're still, we have variations of his stories in different formats. And that's the kind of experience that I wanted to be able to live in.
I did my own research, which I know is frowned upon. You immigrated to the United States in high school? Okay, so pre-high school, what's a movie you watched in Cameroon that influenced culture in your life?
So let me see if I can remember this, because I feel like there's been a few pre-Cameroon, but I would say like the thing that influenced culture was really more of a book at the time. And that was based on, it's a historical fiction based on one of the leaders from Cameroon during the German colonization. That impacted me in a way because, first of all, I'd never before then really had seen us written in that way, and it's written by a Cameroonian author too, which was fantastic. I never really seen us presented in that way. The story felt rich, even though there is, again, creative liberties to it for the fictional side of things, but it was very much rooted in history, and I loved that. But I would say post-Cameroon, it's a great movie, not the best subject, but Hotel Rwanda was one that I saw, and I was like, holy cow. Like, even though it's still trauma-based, it's not a slave movie. It's a different aspect of showing African life and how people live, outside of colonization. Granted, these were downstream effects of colonization, but for me, it just showed a different side of Africans that, again, weren't really prevalent at the time.
And I want to prove that I did the research again. The Germans settled Cameroon in the late 19th century, like the 1870s, something like that. What's the Kirk will enjoy this. What's the log line for that book?
Oh, nice. Yes.
The log line so the book is called Footprints of Destiny. It's based on Martin Paul Samba, if I remember correctly, because I haven't looked at this in a really, really long time. Did I get that right?
I have no idea. I didn't research that. Like, I'll be very honest about what.
We're fact checking it right now.
You fact checking?
Oh, please ask Perplexity AI or something.
I feel like I may be getting that wrong, but I know for sure the book title was Footprints of Destiny, and it basically details not only the Germans taking over Cameroon, but how they also used the African people, or in this sense, the Cameroonian people, to influence. To add to their influence of taking over and reasoning, because this was them doing business with the Douala tribe, so that's one of the many, many tribes in Cameroon, to sign a contract to say, we now give our land to you, similar to how it happened here with the Native Americans and I think the Pilgrims who were here. So but it also has like an intercontinental connection where one of the primary characters who also, in a sense, influences the story. I think her name was Zara, something like that. I know it started with a Z. But she basically is captured during the slave trade movement, by foot, walks as part of this cartel from South Africa to Cameroon to then be sold off on slave ships. And so there was a whole journey of that and interconnected that I felt about this is a great story and a great way to represent just that era of African history.
That reminds me, did you see The Woman King?
I did see The Woman King, and so I'm going to tell you guys a little something. I don't know if this has come to any interviews yet, but
We hear it first. Yeah.
It's a bait show, so I'm interested to hear arguments for or against. I'm a big fan. I'll put that out there.
But
I know that's West Africa too.
This is my very not so true but true story. I had written a TV series along the same vein that was submitted to Sundance as part of their Sundance episodic. It was a semi-finalist. And it again, I didn't make it to finals, but I felt like The Woman King had so many notes from my TV series. And again, there could be no connection there, but I vaguely remember looking up who wrote The Woman King, and I noticed that she was also part of the Sundance panel at the time. Right. I'm not saying she's sold, but it's just very interesting that, again, a lot of people have the same idea, and you can just show itself in different places. But again, in terms of what they created, it was beautiful. I loved it. I think there was still very much some westernization to it, like just some modern touches to it, whether it's in terms of wardrobe, because I do love Ruth Carter. She does amazing with wardrobe. Like wherever she goes, she does amazing. But it didn't feel as authentic as you probably see some period pieces. You know, it still felt very much like a costume. But again, they all did a fantastic job. I love the story. I love that there was that option in there to talk about the Dahomey and you know what they did for their land and for their people. And I love Viola. Who doesn't? That's my little
Amanda Waller. Yeah, that's who she is in the DCU. We're comic book fans.
Yeah, way to make it nerdy.
Thank you. Okay, so high school, you immigrate from Cameroon. Why? And why to Minnesota? Was it to Minnesota?
No, it was directly to Minnesota.
Minnesota.
I know. I came here with the intention of furthering my education, and the goal was to come to what we call university, because college in Cameroon is basically high school. And, you know, the education system at the time in Cameroon up until high school is fantastic. College, you know, what we call college here, but not there. So I'll say university. University, on the other hand, it could be hit or miss. So with intention of just, again, being serious about studies, because a lot of Africans are serious about their studies. And, you know, families take that very seriously just because we know that it's generational changing. It can improve lives and you know, things like that, and help your family back home is always the goal. So I came with the intention of going to university and Minnesota because my mom's sister lived here. So it was a family connection. I don't know that I would have chosen it knowing the winters, but it's been fine. For me, it's home now, because as much as I hated the winters at first and they felt harsh, because I've lived in England and I thought I knew snow. They don't have snow. They don't. They absolutely do not. But coming here and experiencing that, it was again a culture adjustment. But I feel like, you know, everywhere else I go, Minnesota just seems to be like, it's just the more reasonable places. It's generally clean. We generally care for each other. I know there's a Minnesota nice thing, but I mean, which place doesn't kind of have a version of that somewhere, right?
See, you said that as though it were not a compliment, which I appreciate, because I assume that you mean passive aggression when you say Minnesota nice.
Yeah, and that's what people talk about too when they say Minnesota nice, because sometimes they do say it earnestly, as in Minnesota seems nice, but at the same time, you know, depending on which situation you find yourself in, it can feel passive aggressive, and I know a lot of folks don't care for that, but hey, I can thrive in that sometimes.
Wait, you can thrive
in passive aggressiveness.
Okay, because you're directly aggressive, or how so?
I've been told I can be passive aggressive.
Oh, okay.
I found home, so.
Find people.
So you mentioned being insightful. You mentioned what's an example of being passive aggressive in project management? And really, I'm trying to take this as a producer. Like, you have different experience than me. I'd like to learn.
Oh, you cannot get mad. You have to get even, but you cannot get mad.
Get even, okay. Right? Get even.
Say more, please. What's a way you've gotten even that, you know, it's probably fine now?
So a way that I've gotten even, I'll say in my full-time job as a project manager, I take really good notes and I keep really good record of things. So whenever somebody comes back with, oh, this wasn't in there, it's kind of like an as per my email moment, right? You know, you kind of put it in there and say, just so you know that I'm serious, here's proof. So here are the receipts. So that's kind of how you handle it.
Yeah. Okay. I definitely can relate to that, having been a producer. Have I done that in an email before, brother?
As a producer on film?
Yeah, like here's the notes, here's what we agreed on. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I think so, once or twice, but I can't really think of anything specifically.
So you came here, went to high school, then went to college, then went to grad school, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, which high school? It was in the Twin Cities, right?
Holy Angels.
Holy Angels. Wait, where is that? That's
Richfield.
Oh, okay. We're close to Richfield.
Yeah, so I used to live in South Minneapolis.
All right.
Yeah, off of 41st and 14th.
Okay, I can. The streets have numbers. It makes it easy to figure out, like the East Coast. And then, what did you go to? Did you go to the U of M?
I went to St. Ben's.
Oh, you were a Benny with the Johnnies and the Bennies?
Yes, them people.
Did you
Johnnies
ever?
and Bennies?
Yeah, that's what they call them people. Let me tell you. Did you ever hear what is it? Piano Man played and see a bunch of Johnnies drop their pants?
It's a tradition. They have to do that.
See, no one believes me.
It is a thing. I promise you. Go to a Johnny wedding, or even I haven't been back there in a long time, but there was a bar in St. Joe, basically where St. Ben's is, because St. John's is Collegeville. They're their own, city or town, whatever. But St. Joe's where St. Ben's was, and there's a bar called Sal's. And last song of the night, they play the Piano Man, and that's when everybody stands around in a circle. Everybody's holding each other, and then the guys, they drop their pants, and they're singing the song for the last song of the night. It's a thing.
Is that a line in the song?
No.
No,
why are they
I
dropping
don't know
pants?
how it originated. I think one brave person started it, and their friends just took on, and it just never stopped. So, yep, you go
Great
to
tradition.
Benny Johnny wedding, you're bound to see that.
You started grad school in 2010. I started wedding DJing in 2011, and that's when I learned that, not being from the Minnesota myself. And God bless the Johnnies and the Bennies. You're good at getting location. I'm gonna make wild pivots. You're good at making getting locations. I've noticed because I saw your feature, and I heard you talking on another podcast about how you'll get a location and use it for two locations. Like, oh, this could be a restaurant and something else. Give me an example of how you've gotten a location. Because it's one of the things I like doing least.
Yeah, and no, it sucks because it's very, very difficult. And most of the time people are super guarded about, especially like homes are the hardest to get. Like if you want to house an apartment, it's very, very difficult to get. Businesses, I've found sometimes depending on who you reach out to, they might be a little bit okay. It's important that you do have insurance. So I did have insurance for my shoots to make them comfortable. That hey, this is a policy to cover any damages should it come up, and most of them honestly would require that, which is fine. The way that I sometimes find my locations is if I'm someplace just out and about. I can. So for example, a good example is when I was filming I'll talk about my web series and I'll talk about the movie. But my web series, It's Not You. I had been to this co-working space off of 394 called Modern Well, and this was for like a different event. I can't quite remember what I was there for, but I just loved the environment. And so when it was time to think of locations for a shoot, I reached out to the owner. I was like, hey, I have this web series coming up. I'd love to be able to use it for this many days. And you have to be super specific. That's the thing about like planning, right? And my project management brain is like, this is what it's for. This is how long we'll be in there for. This is how many people are going to be in your space. This is what we'll be doing from this time to this time. Give them everything to make them feel comfortable so that they don't feel like they have no idea or no clue what's going on. And, she agreed to do that. And it's like, and that one I was lucky enough because I know I had offered to, again, no budget, offered to give her a little bit of something for the time. And she's like, just put us on social media, and she was super kind about that. For my film, it was there are a few buildings that I would drive past, and again, this is just part of my everyday life. I'm like, oh, this might be a cool spot to film in, and if I'm able to just try to like walk around if it is accessible to people, and if it's something that I felt, okay, yeah, this definitely has a great vibe, then I would basically reach out to, I'll go to like the realtor listing for for whatever the whoever owns the building, and contact them and be like, hey, if you're not the person to talk to, can you put me in touch with somebody who can let me know yes or no. But I go for the no, and if they say yes, then fantastic. But that's basically how I did it. I really just went online, different websites, just to kind of see if I remember an address, plug it in, see who is listed as either the building manager if there's that information, and then reach out to them and be like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. This is my budget. I know it's not a lot, but I can promise you this.
You tell them your budget.
I do tell. Well, I don't tell them my budget. I just tell them I don't have a huge budget, but I'm willing to do this much, or you tell me what you feel comfortable with, and we can kind of negotiate, like that. And sometimes they're like, yep, this works for me, and other times they're like, you know what, I'd rather not. But again, for Out of Time, which is the feature film, I think I reached out to at least like 20 places. I had like a whole spreadsheet of like, this could be this. This location could be these several different things, and reached out to every single one of them. And if I didn't hear back, I'll follow up, because I took maybe like 4 or 5 months for planning. So I had my little window to make sure that if I wasn't hearing back, I was checking in until I heard a no.
Got it. Djini Productions is the name of your, I'm doing a wild pivot, because that would lead me to questions about your movie, which we're going to non-spoil in the next episode, so stay tuned for that, everyone. Djini, and I pronounced it correctly.
That is correct, yeah, Djini Productions.
DJINI. I learned from a someone from Pakistan, that a jinn is a ghost. Is there any relation between your company's name and ghosts?
No. So the way that the name came about is from my middle name. So I'm named after my grandfather on my father's side, and it starts with DJI. But I didn't want to use the full name, so kind of just finish it off with a ni, which makes it seem like a genie, coming out the bottle with a lamp and magic, and especially when you're thinking about like Djini Productions tagline, dreams become reality, that kind of like your wishes coming true. That just felt like a little bit more organic. So it's not ghosty,
It's not a magic. Yeah.
Not quite magic, but it was just really a play on my name.
I check on the ghost thing. It's important to me to figure that out. I guess let's debate the nuanced difference between a ghost and a genie.
That's a good one. I've never really thought of that, but I don't think a ghost is a genie, because a ghost is somebody who was formerly a person,
sure, yeah,
or at least a human being, died, and then maybe had unfinished business, and therefore is still here. A genie, from what I, again, probably vaguely remember reading at some point, is either somebody who was cursed and trapped, or just a mythical, the other side is a mythical of, I don't know how this person came to be. It's not a person, it's a being, how the being came to be. And they are beholden to whoever, they have to be subservient to whoever finds them. A ghost, not so much. A ghost is like, you're in my spot, move. A genie is, I guess you got me, what I got to do,
Grant 3 wishes, that kind of thing, yeah.
Brother, do you know much about jinns?
No, not that much.
I do
Only
think
from video games. Uncharted 3, there's jinns that hunt, that protect the city, like protect their gold.
Okay, in What We Do in the Shadows, I thought there was a wish component that made it like a genie. Because I'm basing this on something someone from Pakistan told me about jinn. That it was somewhere between a ghost and a genie. I don't know. I'm not particularly mystical in my own personal life.
So you don't believe in ghosts?
What?
Do you not believe in ghosts?
I mean, if ghosts are listening to this, we'd love more listens. So,
please press play, subscribe. Yeah.
You described yourself as introverted. I haven't found you to be that way, but it sounds, you defined it as getting energy from being by yourself. Am I describing that correctly?
That's how I describe it.
Okay. What is the feeling you feel when you're working on a spreadsheet?
So it depends on what type of spreadsheet it is, number one. Like if it's a fun thing where it's like, okay, I need to organize my life and put this stuff together, that's exciting. I could do that for hours. Yes. The number side of things is not so fun. So I again, if it's like, let me rephrase that. Trying to create the initial financial stuff, if we're talking about the like heavy business, profit and loss, all that stuff, I don't like it. Yeah. Creating a budget, I don't mind. So those are like two different things.
How did you learn about film budgeting? I mean, I'm still learning about it constantly.
It's a trial and error, really. Just what I would think I would do in my regular life, just kind of parse it out. Oh, actually, no, I should say I had worked on my first insight to what a film budget could look like. I think I'd worked for somebody where I got to see get a little bit of a purview of how they break things down, to kind of just get a sense of how it works. So I know it gets super intricate, but my film budgets aren't like the ones that you see where they have like different markers for 001. This is talent. 002. This is okay. Like that's just too cumbersome for me.
Sure.
So my budgets are literally sectioned into talent, crew, Post-production, production.
Sounds pretty reasonable.
Yeah, basically. So it's a little bit more, I wouldn't say dumbed down, but just a little bit simpler for me.
I don't think we've even written a budget down for any of our shorts. And have you ever written a budget down?
Like a rough draft, not like in Excel or anything, like in my notes on iPhones.
Oh, I wouldn't be able to do that. It has to be in Excel.
All right, it's gotta be legit, yeah.
It's got to add up by itself, you know. Right. The numbers got to be right.
I'm starting to hit the zenith of the episode. You joined MBWTFB in 2016 and became the president in 2021. So in those 5 years, what was the Game of Thrones you had to do to become president of this organization? And I guess tell us more about the organization. But
yes.
I assume there was like some sort of House of Cards, Succession, whatever. I know you're a Succession fan from your
I love
conversation with Alan.
Succession. Yes. So MBWTFB, so that's Minnesota Women in Film and Television. It's a local chapter of a national organization, and their MO is to be able to help women or women identifying people to have equity within the film industry. So that's it at the basis. Now, how I got to learn about them, when I got into film, like, you know, that whole 2015, 2016, my goal was just to immerse myself into the community just to understand what everything is and how it all plays out, because it really does feel mystic until you're in it and doing. And I'm a doer, so I had to be able to experience it. But I met a lot of great people, but it felt like everybody had, and there was a lot of great women too, but I feel like each group of women that I meet, they're like, oh, let's do this thing so we can do this, so we can, you know, build up ourselves in this community. And it felt like it was so segmented. And I'm like, there's got to be a place that does this already, so that, you know, I don't have to split myself 7 ways on, you know, all these different projects where we feel like, you know, we're spinning our wheels. And so one of my really good friends told me about MBWTFB. I was like, oh, okay. So if they're here, why aren't people, you know, looking into them and figuring out like how we can get support? So because it's a nonprofit, they do have their board meetings open for everyone to be able to attend if you need to. So I think they still meet on some Tuesday within the month, like a third Tuesday in the month. So you can honestly, you know, jump in at any point. You don't have to be a member. You can, as long as you have access to it, you can go in and listen in. And so decided to just attend a couple of their meetings. And, you know, it was, again, a lot of women that I didn't know and a gentleman. And, but then, you know, they were all making these plans to figure out how do we help the community. But at the same time, I felt like WIFT in LA and WIFT in New York, these are like huge organizations, because granted, that's more or less where they started and that's where the business is. So they run like clockwork because, you know, they have their presence are getting paid, they have staff that's getting paid. For the local chapter like Minnesota, this is all volunteer based, so no one's getting money. Everyone is doing this out of, you know, the goodness of their heart and just for the love of film, right? Or, you know, or the medium. So in attending to those meetings, I could tell there was like a lot of struggle internally with how to be able to connect with people. They didn't really have a great online presence too at the time, and it really felt outdated. So I approached them and say, hey, I can, I'm knowledgeable enough in websites and knowledgeable enough in social media. Can I volunteer my time to help you guys with that stuff? And they're like, sure. Why not? And so within a couple of years, they invited me to the board because, again, I was valuable, right? So, and then it got to a point where, you know, even though there was some traction that had been made and, you know, the people were starting to talk about MBWTFB again, it still needed a little bit of that push to get a lot more engagement. And there were some folks that, you know, that disagreed on the board and the direction of where things needed to go, and of course that doesn't help when you have like internal disagreements. You know, we're all going for the same goal, but if you can't have someone who can help steer everyone to keep them together, it's very easy for things to just crumble and separate. So it was coming up to one of actually the president at the time. It was almost her time up, and her and the secretary of MBWTFB at the time reached out to me and said, hey, you've been great in helping us, you know, update our website and social media, and you're engaged in our board meetings and, you know, giving good ideas, and we feel like it'll be good for you to help bring more, you know, young voices in, because this is not a dig or anything, but at the time, the board was leaning on the older generation. So they were just looking to kind of bridge that gap, which is what a lot of the film industry is trying to do right now in Minnesota. We're trying to bridge the gap, and we know that's a big issue. And that was also an issue for me, because it's like I was looking for mentorship, and I'll go to all these places, but it's, again, there's a Minnesota nice thing where it's like they smell you. It's like, yeah, you can reach out to me at any point. And then when you do, it's crickets, right? So when they approach me and say, hey, would you be interested in being president? I was like, you know what? I'm honored that you think I can do this, because again, I didn't feel like I could. 'Cause my introverted side is like, I really don't like to talk to people that much. I will when I need to. Thank you. I will when I need to, but to be out there, I'm like not that kind of person. Like I did a year of freelancing, and that was one of the worst years of my life, because you have to hustle, and it's very difficult for me to do. Yes, it's very very draining. But I was like, you know what? I'll take a chance, and I'll try it out. I'll do it, and I think. I'm glad I did, because it was a great experience. It was a lot of work, so I was definitely ready to give up my term once my term was up. And plus, at the time, I also got pregnant, and I was having my first child. So it was like, okay, it was very, I guess, symbiotic in a way that it worked out. But
congratulations.
Thank you.
When Lori was on the podcast and recommended you, she had mentioned you had just had a baby. Are we talking about two different children?
No, it's the same one.
Same one. Okay, that's how I got it. Well, again, congratulations. I have enjoyed that over the past year. MBwTFB picked up the last Thursday of the month happy hours. Just as hey, this is where we're going to meet. Catalyst had been doing it in 2023, and then MBwTFB did it in 2024, and I hope that continues. Yeah,
Carrie Bush, current president, she's doing a fantastic job.
I love Carrie Bush. Carrie Bush would, I think, recognize me now. She's the one who told me that the presidency is all volunteer. And I was like, oh, I thought you were getting paid.
No,
I'm sorry, Carrie.
No.
You get so much crap.
One of my goals going in as president at the time was to see if it was possible to do that. But it's a lot of work, and if it's not your full-time commitment, it's very difficult to kick something like that off. And yeah, so hopefully at one of these days it will be, because I do think it's a valuable organization. I think people need something like that. But again, I commend all the women who have and men who have stepped up to support MBwTFB and keep it going. I'm
going to throw it to Kirk to end this segment, and to tease the next episode, I have a controversial question that we can cut out of the next episode it relates to what we were just talking. I know it's a big tease.
Yeah.
I know it's a big tease, but you cool to lead us out?
All right. Well, join us in our next segment to talk about Out of Time.
Yes, non-spoiler.
Non-spoiler. Yes. Yeah.